Where was he going? Then, he pulled into a small cafe. My breath hitched as I watched him step out of the car. He glanced around, as if checking to see if he was being watched, before heading inside. My pulse skyrocketed. I thought my husband was my forever until I realized I was just a placeholder for the woman he truly loved. I still remember the moment my world cracked open. It was a simple evening, the kind where routine masked reality. I was making tea, humming softly to myself, when I heard hushed voices from the study. My husband, Daniel, and his father. "She doesn't deserve this, Dad." Daniel's voice was tense. "I don't know how to do it without hurting her." My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob. My heart pounded against my ribs, warning me that whatever I was about to hear would change everything. "You have to end it, son. Your heart belongs to someone else. We both know that. And besides, my health is silence." I pressed my back against the wall, my breath shallow. His health? What was going on? "I know, Dad," Daniel whispered. "I'll do it. I'll end things with her." The cup slipped from my fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound echoed through the house just like my breaking heart. For 5 years, Daniel and I had what I thought was the perfect marriage. We met in the most unexpected way on a rainy evening, when my car broke down outside a small cafe. I was struggling with the engine, drenched from head to toe, when he walked over with an umbrella, offering the kindest smile I had ever seen. "Need some help?" he had asked, his deep voice carrying a warmth that instantly put me at ease. That was Daniel. Always the gentleman. Always the problem solver. Our love story unfolded like a dream. Late-night conversations over coffee, spontaneous road trips, and a wedding that felt like a fairy tale. He made me feel cherished, like I was Cree. His world. But love, as I would later learn, is sometimes just an illusion. Looking back, there were signs, small cracks in the glass I refused to see. The way his eyes lingered a little too long on his phone some nights. The unreadable expression on his face when he thought I wasn't watching. The hesitation in his touch. Like he was holding on to something or someone else. And then there was his father, Mr. Callahan. Daniel had always been close to him. After his mother passed, his father's word became law. I admired their bond, until I realized that I would never truly be a part of it. "You're a lovely girl, Evelyn," his father had once told me, his sharp gaze dissecting me like I was a puzzle missing too many pieces. But love isn't just about feelings. It's about destiny. I had laughed it off at the time, not realizing that his words were a warning. I should have seen it coming. I should have known that I was never Daniel's destiny. Was just the space between him and the woman he was always meant to be with. The night after I overheard Daniel and his father talking, I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Daniel slept beside me, his breathing steady and peaceful. I wanted to wake him up, to demand answers, to scream at him for planning to break my heart without even giving me the courtesy of the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence fester, just like the doubts growing inside me. The next morning, I decided to act normal. I made breakfast, kissed him goodbye, and went about my day as if nothing had changed. But inside, my mind was racing. Who was the woman he was meant to be with? How long has this been going on? I needed proof. That evening, I waited until Daniel was in the shower before I grabbed his phone. My hands shook as I opened his messages. Scrolling quickly through his recent conversations. Most were harmless work, a few friends, even one from me. But then I saw her name. Sophie. A name from the past. What I hadn't heard in years. Sophie was his ex. The one before me. The one he had once said was the love of his life, but their timing was all wrong. My chest tightened as I clicked on the conversation. "I miss you too." My vision blurred. My hands felt ice cold. I scrolled up, reading the messages one by one. I can't keep lying to her. Dad says now is the best time. I just want to be with you, Sophie. I never stopped loving you. I almost dropped the phone. It was true. Daniel was planning to leave me not because he had fallen out of love, but because he had never truly been in love with me at all. And the worst part? His father had orchestrated the entire thing. I stood frozen, Daniel's phone still in my trembling hand. My mind raced, battling between denial and the cruel reality that had just unraveled before me. My husband, the man who promised to love me, cherish me, had been lying to me all along. But why? Why go through the trouble of marrying me, of building a life with me, if his heart had always belonged to someone else? A wave of nausea hit me, and I placed the phone back exactly where I found it, as if touching it any longer would burn me. I stumbled back toward the bed, my breaths uneven, my heart pounding in my ears. Maybe I misread the texts. Maybe it's not what it looks like. But deep down, I knew the truth. A voice inside me screamed to confront him, to shake and awake and demand he tell me everything, every lie, every betrayal. But another part of me, the part still reeling in shock, wasn't ready. Instead, I turned away from him and lay down, facing the wall. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined Daniel and Sophie together. Him holding her, whispering to her the same sweet words he used to tell me. Has he ever looked at me with the same love in his eyes? Or had I been nothing more than a placeholder? By the time morning arrived, I felt hollow. Daniel stirred beside me, then leaned in to press a kiss on my temple. "Morning, love," he murmured, his voice laced with the same warmth I used to find comfort in. Now? It felt like poison. I forced a smile, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. Morning. As he got up and disappeared into the bathroom, I sat there, staring at the empty space beside me. I had two choices. Confront him, demand the truth, and watch my marriage crumble in front of me. Play along. Pretend I didn't know anything and see how far he was willing to take this act. A love formed in my throat. If Daniel and his father thought they could manipulate me, I would just quietly accept being discarded like some forgotten chapter in his life. They were wrong. I told myself I would wait, that I would be patient and let the truth unfold on its own. But patience was never my strong suit, especially not when my entire marriage was on the line. The next day I made up my mind I had to follow Daniel. He left for work at the usual time, dressed in his navy blue suit, planting a soft kiss on my forehead like he always did. "See you tonight, love." His voice was steady, affectionate, like nothing was amiss. But I knew better now. I waited exactly 10 minutes before grabbing my keys and heading out. Daniel's office was only 15 minutes away, but he never made it there. Instead, he took a sharp turn down an unfamiliar street, driving toward a quieter part of town. I followed at a safe distance, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded so loudly that I could barely hear my own thoughts. I parked a few spots away and climbed out, making sure to keep my head down as I entered the cafe. The smell of fresh coffee and pastries filled the air, but I had no appetite. I scanned the room, and there he was, sitting in the farthest booth, with her, Sophie, his ex, the woman I was supposed to believe he had left behind. I felt the ground beneath me shift. She was beautiful, the kind of effortless beauty that made people stare. Dark wavy hair cascaded over her shoulders, and she was dressed in a simple beige dress that hugged her figure. I expected to see tension between them, maybe even discomfort. But there was none. They were laughing, smiling. His hand casually rested on top of hers across the table. A sharp pain sliced through my chest. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Then, as if sensing my presence, Daniel looked up. Our eyes locked across the cafe. His smile faded. His body stiffened. I turned and bolted. I barely made it to my car before I heard his voice behind me. "Emily, wait." I yanked open the door, but he grabbed my wrist before I could get inside. "Let me go," I hissed, my voice shaking with barely contained rage. He looked panicked. "It's not what you think." I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "Oh? Because it looks exactly like what I think. Please, just let me explain." I yanked my arm free. "Don't. I already know everything." The color drained from his face, and that's when I knew he had no excuse. No explanation that could justify this. I stepped back, my voice trembling with anger. You and your father wanted to push me away so you could have this? Fine. I took a deep breath, my vision blurred with unshed tears. You can have her, Daniel. And I hope she was worth losing me. I didn't wait for his response. I got into my car, slammed the door shut, and drove away. But as I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, my mind was already racing with my next move. This wasn't over. I had spent the last 48 hours in a haze, replaying every moment of my marriage, searching for the signs I had ignored. The way Daniel had been distant these past few months. The sudden late nights at work. The hidden glances at his phone. And now, the truth was laid bare. He had been seeing Sophie behind my back. The betrayal burned through me like acid. But I wasn't going to cry. Not anymore. Tonight, I was going to end this. I didn't call him. I didn't text. I waited. Waited for him to walk through that door, thinking he could pretend like nothing had changed. At exactly 7:12 p.m., I heard the familiar sound of his car pulling into the driveway. I sat on the couch, my hands folded in my lap, my wedding ring glinting under the dim light. The front door opened. Emily? Daniel's voice was cautious, uncertain. I'm home. I stayed silent. He walked in, loosening his tie. And then he saw me. He froze. Something in my expression must have unsettled him because his entire demeanor shifted. Why do I feel like I just walked into an ambush? He said, forcing a small chuckle. I tilted my head, my voice cold. Because you did. Adam's apple bobbed. Emily, whatever you think you saw. I stood up. I know what I saw, Daniel. You. Her. Laughing. Holding hands. My voice wavered, but I steadied myself. Don't insult me by lying. His jaw clenched. It wasn't what you think. Stop saying that. I snapped, my patience snapping like a fragile thread. Just stop. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel exhaled sharply, rubbing his face before meeting my gaze. Fine, he said, his voice quieter now. Yes, I've been seeing Sophie. But I held up a hand, cutting him off. How long? He hesitated. Daniel, I said warningly. How? Long? A few months, he admitted, shame flickering in his eyes. I swallowed hard. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. And why? My voice cracked. Was I not enough for you? His face twisted with guilt. Emily, it's not that. I never stopped loving you, I swear. But seeing Sophie again, he exhaled. It made me question everything. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped my lips. Question everything? My chest tightened painfully. You married me, Daniel. You promised me forever. He looked away, his expression torn. I know. And I hate myself for this. I let out a shaky breath. Do you love her? Silence. The hesitation was my answer. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I nodded slowly, forcing myself to stay strong. I see. Daniel reached for me. Emily, please. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Tears burned at the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I gave you everything, I whispered. And you threw it away. He opened his mouth to speak, but I didn't want to hear it. I turned on my heel, heading for the stairs. Where are you going? He called after me. I paused at the top step, looking over my shoulder. To pack. His face paled. Emily, wait. But I didn't. I was done waiting. I was done hurting. Tonight, I was walking away from the man I thought I knew. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I packed my bags in silence, my hands trembling slightly as I folded the last of my clothes. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching my life unravel from a distance. This was my home. The place where Daniel and I had built our life together. The place where I had once felt safe. But now? Now, he was nothing more than a house filled with broken promises. I zipped my suitcase shut and turned toward the bedroom door only to find Daniel standing there, his eyes filled with desperation. "Emily, don't do this," he pleaded. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. "Do what, Daniel? Walk away like you did months ago?" Regret twisted his features. "I made a mistake, no." I cut him off, my voice steady. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something hurtful in the heat of an argument." I swallowed hard, my next words coming out softer. "What you did was a choice." Daniel looked down, shame flickering in his expression. "I never wanted to hurt you," he murmured. I clenched my jaw, willing myself to stay strong. "But you did." Silence stretched between us. Then, after a long pause, I exhaled. "I'm not staying," I said, more to myself than to him. "I deserve more than this." Daniel's head snapped up, his expression tightening. "You're really leaving?" I nodded. "I have to." He took a shaky breath. "And if I told you I want to fix this?" I gave him a sad smile. "You had that chance, Daniel, and you threw it away." Tears welled in his eyes, but I had nothing left to give. Without another word, I grabbed my suitcase and walked past him. This time, he didn't stop me. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, my heart pounding in my chest. I had no idea where I was going. I had no plan, no safety net, just the clothes in my bag and the weight of my broken heart. But strangely enough, I felt lighter. As I got into my car, I pulled out my phone and stared at the blank screen. No missed calls. No messages. I hesitated for a moment before typing out a single text. "Me. I left." A few seconds later, my phone vibrated. "Olivia, finally. I'm outside. Let's go." A small smile tugged at my lips as I looked up. Sure enough, Olivia's car was parked across the street, her headlights flashing. She had been waiting for me. I inhaled deeply, gripping the steering wheel one last time. Then, with one final glance at the house behind me, I let go and drove toward my new beginning. The sun was setting over the ocean, casting everything in golden light. I stood barefoot on the sand, the waves lapping at my feet, breathing in the salty air. 6 months. That's how long it had been since I walked away from Daniel, since I packed my bags and started over. And in those 6 months, I had rebuilt myself piece by piece. I found a new apartment, the new job, a version of myself I had long forgotten. For so long, I had defined my life by my love for him. But now I am learning to love myself. A familiar voice pulled me from my thoughts. "You look like someone who finally found peace." I turned to see Oliver standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, his signature smirk in place. I laughed softly. "I'm getting there." He walked closer, stopping beside me. "So, any regrets?" I thought about it for a moment before shaking my head. "No." He grinned. "Good." We stood in silence, watching the sun dip lower. Then Oliver nudged me playfully. "So dinner?" I smiled. "Only if you're paying." He chuckled. "Deal." As we walked away from the shore, I realized something. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living.